Hello, it's Tristan here from Zebra Invest, and today I've got a great strategy for you. If you're just getting started and you're looking to pick up properties that you can easily add value to and work on quite quickly, this is a great strategy for you. Or if you're looking to grow your portfolio and you're looking to leave as little cash in as possible, but don't mind having little buy-to-let flats rather than having working great HMOs. This is an excellent property strategy. It's one that's seen all across London where people have made stonking great amounts of money, but it really works well in towns and cities where you've had flats or houses that have been turned into flats, and even some places where you've got purpose-built stuff where at the time you might not have been able to get a two-bedroom flat. So what am I talking about? It's all about turning one-bedroom flats into two bedrooms. And actually, I've done this myself, and if you go back to some of my earlier videos, you will see me at Swanmore Avenue walking around a one-bedroom property that we'd managed to turn into two. So today what I'm going to do is cover the whole process and what you would need to be able to do this. We're going to go through what size you should be looking for, where the windows need to be, how you can find these properties, some live examples so you can see exactly how they work, and also one that I have done myself, how freeholder consent might work, and how you can quickly add value to a property, and whether or not that might even be using short lease properties, so you get a double whammy. So the first thing that I want to talk about is size, and size really does matter when it comes to turning a one-bedroom flat into a two-bedroom. The first thing you need to do is you always need to be looking for properties that are at least 50 square meters. For those working in square feet, that's around about 550 square feet. The reason being, these tend to give you roughly the kind of amount of space that you need to be able to rearrange the space into at least two rooms and have a decent, comfortable, open plan kitchen living room, because that's the main aim of the game here. But the other bit is I've had people before tell me, look, Tristan, you can't do that. That doesn't match a national minimum space standards. Well, national minimum space standards are actually designed for new build properties, not for existing properties, and permitted development allows you to put up new walls if you need to without actually applying for planning permission. So if you want to turn a 50 square meter bed into a two bed, be my guest. So one of the best things that I do is I typically open up something called Metro Picks. You might find other floor planning software out there. And the idea is you can jump in and work with a floor plan. And the reason I like this is you can draw out and lay out your property quite easily, just like Swanmore Avenue you can see in front of you here. So let's give you an example of exactly what I did at Swanmore Avenue. So if you want to go back in time and find my old videos that I did all about Swanmore Avenue, you can find them seeing where I bought this one-bedroom flat, which we turned into a two-bed. And for some of you, you might be wondering, well, where are the windows? Where's anything else in here? But I'll go into windows a little bit later. But this property, to me, screamed out it was the perfect property to turn from a one bed into a two bed. It actually had the downstairs area for where you came into the property and had a really kind of small hallway. But what I looked at was the reception room here, or the living room, sits there around about 15, maybe 16 square meters. And if you use the space carefully, you'll be able to rearrange that quite neatly into a two-bedroom flat. So what we simply did was take the kitchen and put it there, move that across into there, and then you can then see I then have space here for this kitchen to then become a bedroom. Well, what we then did was move the door to the bedroom just to there, and then I just moved the wall across to here. So that now made this little kitchen down at the bottom. That just turned it into a bedroom. And all we had to do was effectively move one wall across. And it made it a really light and simple touch to be able to do and to be able to rearrange this into two beds. But the main reason we did this deal was actually when we looked at it as a one-bedroom property, it was on the market for around about £90,000. And just around the corner, two-bedroom properties were selling for £150,000. So I kind of looked at it, worked out the refurbishment costs, and it came in all in at around about £16,000. And that meant with £90,000 plus 16,000 would be £96,000. Plus, then we add on our cost for buying the property, stamp duty and everything else. Well, all in the end, the whole thing came in at around about £122,000, £123,000. And then I actually sold the property direct to another investor. But it meant that there was a good profit margin in there. And I knew, based on the properties that were selling as two beds around the corner, that I could quite easily add a fair bit of value simply by rearranging it. The next most important thing, whenever you're looking at turning a one-bed flat into a two-bed, is windows. You always have to make sure that if you create a new bedroom, that room is going to have windows. It's going to have somewhere where you've got natural daylight coming into it. Otherwise, it's just a cupboard. But bathrooms don't need windows, and technically neither do kitchens. So if you can move a kitchen into a space that's dark, or a bathroom into a space that was dark, or maybe move a kitchen into a kitchen living area, so you've now got open plan living, which is very popular at the moment. Well, suddenly you're releasing a window which could then be used for a room that could be converted. Well, so what I'll do now is just show you how you can actually find these properties, and whether we jump on Rightmove or Zoopla to try and get through them, and then how I find my first one-bed to two-bed deal. So the easiest way that I found to get my first deal and get a one to a two-bed was simply to go onto Zoopla. I may have shown you this before, but for those who don't know, this is a great simple way to be able to get out there. So you can simply put in your area that you're in. At the time I was in Southampton, I'm now in Norwich. And then you go on here and then you can see everything that's coming up. But one of the bits that most people don't realize is at the bottom of the page, there's this little thing that you can select to contact relevant agents and new home developers. So it's got loads of different people here. But what I wanted to do was make sure that I was only approaching and contacting the estate agents that I wanted to talk to who are selling older houses, because if they're selling new builds, it's not going to be one for me, because I'm not really going to be able to turn a new build from one bed to a two bed. So for example, you take off the ones that you're not interested in, and then you simply type in a message that says what your name is, Tristan Gordon, and then you then type in and just say, hello, I'm looking for large, you put in, I'm looking for large one-bedroom flats, ideally that are tired and need a bit of work. If you've got one of those, do please get in touch. And actually straight off the back of that and filling out this form and sending it, that's how I got my first deal. And I had someone from Your Move call me up and say, Tristan, we've got the perfect property for you. Come have a look round at it. I mean, but that does work, and that's how I did find Swanmore Avenue. But there is an easier way, and there's a much easier way to doing this. So as most of you know, I tend to like using property data. Property data is a fantastic piece of software where you can head out and get all of Rightmove, Zoopla on the market, all the platforms all brought into one place. And this makes it really easy when trying to hunt down and find that one deal. When you've got the needle in the haystack, you're just trying to find that one property. If you're on the fence and you're thinking about using it or signing up for it, well, at the end of this video, I'll give you a 14-day free trial. There'll be a link in the description below, and there is a discount code for you. So you get 50% off your first month. So if you click the link, you'll be able to get that, sign up and get in and get using it. And the best bit is when you jump in here, you can just head straight in, and you might have set up a saved area. And if you jump into your saved area, you can then find any properties that are oversized or just one-bedroom flats to be able to convert those. So what we would do is we go into pound per square foot. And then what we want to do, if we're only looking for one bedroom to turn to two bedrooms, we put a little filter on here. So we can turn and say we only want it where the bedrooms is, here we go, is equal to 1. So we now know that any property that's going to be on here is only going to be one bedrooms. And this whole graph, the way it works is anything on the left-hand side is going to be lower pound per square foot, which means that, say, for example, on the flat, it's a cheaper flat for the size of it. Anything on the right means it's more expensive. Anything at the top means it's just larger. And anything on the bottom means it's smaller. So the perfect place that we want to be for these is on this top left-hand side. It means it's big, and we know it's also going to be small. It's also going to be cheap. So, for example, you might find something like Waterloo Road. Let's just open up one or two of these to give you an examples. Grove House, or you might even find it's King Street. I'll just show you a couple here. And this is just a really simple way to be able to find that we know that we've got larger properties that might be able to be turned into two-bedroom flats. So, for example, and I'm not saying this is the perfect property, we've just jumped in to have a look at it, but with this property, it's got lots of windows on the outside of it. It's £90,000, which is quite a good price for that kind of size property. But you can see, for example, if you were to, for example, swap your kitchen around, you can make your kitchen into a kitchen bedroom, put a little hallway just in here, and I'll see if I can just do a little snip for you to show you what I mean. So what you could do here is you could put let's just clean the wall out there. So that wall would disappear. So the kitchen turns around the other way. We then block in that wall there. See what I mean? So now we've got a kitchen living space as we had before, but instead we put in a little hallway. And by doing that, we suddenly have 1, 2 bedrooms. We've got a kitchen and a nice kitchen living space that we would have had before. It's just rearranging the space to get the most out of it. And then if we take a look, for example, that's at £90,000, and you're never going to buy a flat for £90,000. It's 2 bedrooms. But then here's another property in Norwich again. And here you can see it's a large bedroom. It's 70 square meters, which is a big old property. And again, you might want to do the same kind of style thing. And if we just snip again, I can show you what you could do here. Is that living space there is, if you say it's roughly 6 by 6, and 6 by 6 is around 36 square meters. So is there a way you could do the same kind of style thing here without compromising it too much? Just change it like that. And then you could then extend your hallway across there and put the door in there and a door in there. There might be a better idea, but that's one way that you might be able to get around it. But you keep going and you can see what I mean. And here there's a property in Thorpe. And now this one's a little bit more difficult because if you look at it, you've got a large window across the front of it. You've got window on the back here, window on the back here, and a little bathroom. So you could think, how are we going to be able to use this space? Well, actually, in this case, the idea would be quite simple. You take the ground floor of this one, because we want to make sure, as we said earlier, we have got bedrooms with windows. So what we do, we put say for example, we put the kitchen units here, for example. And then what we then do is we'll remove this kitchen on the side here. We'll just get rid of that. And then that becomes the bedroom. The only downside here is that you've got your bathroom at the back, which is a little bit more difficult to access. So you just need to work out how you're going to do that. Are you going to have a Jack and Jill bathroom? So you go through one side to the other. Is there a way of possibly moving the entrance to it? But yeah, it's one just to think about. And then again, here we're looking at, this is on Waterloo Road, quite a nice size property. And again, this is sitting at 65 square meters upstairs, which is huge. It's got lots of windows up the front here. And there, so what you could do is that living space there is sitting at around about 17, 18 square meters. So maybe you move the kitchen into the sitting room, and then you'll have a bedroom at the back and a bedroom on the side. And again, I was just clicking through other ones, but this is an example of one that just will not work. It will never work, and I'll point out why. So you look at the property, it's got decent sized space, and you're thinking, you know what, we might be able to put the kitchen in here to make it a nice open plan kitchen living room. It's got an old kitchen, a nice sized bedroom, and the original bathroom fitted into it. The reason this property won't work is the windows that are on the front of it. There's no windows at the back of the property. So if you move the kitchen into the kitchen living room in lounge diner, well, you can't have a dark room. You can't have a dark bedroom. There's no natural light. So this property just will not work, and this type won't work. Whereas if you come over to this other house on Thorpe Road, Grove House, well, maybe you say that's the kitchen living room, or you incorporate the store into there to make that into the kitchen living room, and you've got a nice large space for it. Or it could be, for example, this shower room here is sitting at 3.35 meters by 1.55, which just worked that out. 3.35. I'm just going to put a little calculator in front of you, times by 1.55. So that's 5.12, which would make it a nice kind of kids' bedroom, kid-size bedroom, which wouldn't be the best, but you might be able to make it a little bit bigger by taking in the cupboard or using that space. But there could be another way that you rearrange this. I think including the store would probably be the best way to be able to open this up and create a bit more storage, more living space for that room. And then finally, here we've got this beautiful property in Cabell Road in Cromer. If anyone's been to Cromer, it's a beautiful place by the sea, and a lot of holiday homes are here. But it's a colossal property, but it was a one-bedroom flat. So when you take a look through this, you can see it's got big old kitchen. It's got massive dining room. Then it's got another bedroom, which again is huge, and it's got loads and loads of windows, and it even has a garage. And the reason this property would work quite nicely, you've got to think, this bedroom here is huge. So let's just draw on this as I did last time. and we'll do a new one. So you can see this is quite a big property. So what can we do with it? Well, the first one is you want to make it more of an enjoyable place to live. So you probably want to take out the wall between the kitchen and the dining room to get that open plan feel and make it feel a bit more homely. The next bit is we want to add, so that becomes a nice kitchen living space. The next thing you probably want to do is add another bedroom. And if you simply add a corridor in here with a doorway, well, actually, you've now got kitchen living space and 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. But you could go one step further. If you went one step further and went across here and did that, then suddenly you could actually create 3 bedrooms. So you've got 3 bedrooms in this house, 1, 2, 3, and you've got a nice kitchen living space. You'd want to update the bathroom, but that's a way that you could really force and add the value to the property. And so much so, this Cabell Road property has finally just sold on a modern auction, but it's actually a property that would be worth around about £220,000 if it was done up. So look, I tried to go through and demonstrate here just how you can add quite a bit of value to a property. And in most of these cases, you've seen that you can rearrange them to add value and add a bit more. But one of the other bits you can do, and I've done a whole series all about short leases and extending leases, but if you also manage to extend the lease at the same time, you might be able to buy the property for less money because it's cash buyers only, and you could buy that property and say add the additional bedrooms. You're adding value in one area and adding a value in another. And another great tool when I was showing you on property data how you can find these, and a much simpler way of doing it is going into their source function. We click onto their on-market property and they have 1 to 2 bedroom conversions. And by simply putting in your postcode of an area that you live, 3D White, this is where my office is. If anyone ever wants to come visit, be my guest. And then you can then jump in and you can see all the properties of that size that could turn from 1 bedroom to 2 bedrooms in your area. And that's exactly how I found most of these properties that I've shown you today. It's a really simple piece of kit that you can jump in and use. So if you fancy signing up for their 14-day free trial, the link's going to be in the below, and the discount code is ZEB. That's going to give you 30% off your first month, your 14-day free trial, so you pretty much get the first month for free. So I hope you found this video really useful. I hope you can get out there and find deals just like these ones. And if you've got any comments or questions, please drop them in the below. Hopefully you like this video and subscribe to my channel. But catch you later. Bye.